Hallo, guten Morgen, Deutsch 4. Heute ist Montag. Ich hoffe, du hattest ein schönes Wochenende. Heute in Deutsch arbeiten wir mit einer neuen Grammatik und das sind Konjunktionen. Für diese Aufgabe heute brauchst du zwei Sachen von Google Classroom. Das heißt, du gehst jetzt auf das Google Classroom für Deutsch 4. Dann kommst du hier in der Mitte oben auf Classwork. Hier auf der linken Seite findest du Wortschatz und da klickst du die Liste zu Musik. Das ist der neue Wortschatz und das hilft dir mit dieser Aufgabe. Also, Wortschatz hast du. Du brauchst auch ein Grammatikblatt, also gehst du wieder auf Classwork in ein neues Fenster. Und hier links findest du Grammatik und da oben Infoblatt Konjunktionen. Hilft auch mit dieser Aufgabe heute. Okay, I hope you followed a little bit and opened up these two documents from Google Classroom. First, the vocabulary to Musik, and then also Konjunktionen. This is, I think, somewhat familiar to you. Some of these you should definitely know from prior years. And then, so we'll just use this unit to kind of reinforce those and also add some new ones to it. So just a couple definitions first. A conjunction is a word that connects a phrase or a clause. A clause is a group of words that contains a subject or a verb, sorry. In German, clauses are always separated by commas, and you'll get used to that partly in this unit, and we'll really reinforce it throughout the year. So we'll start with coordinating conjunctions. I think the majority of these you should already know, like und, oder, aber, and denn. This word sondern is probably new to you. You'll see it means but instead. Aber is but, and then sondern, I'll give you an example. So if you wanted to say something like, I don't want pizza for dinner, I want pasta. It's like, but instead, I want pasta. In German, you would say, ich möchte keine Pizza zum Abendessen, sondern ich möchte Nudeln oder Pasta. So there it's like when you're presenting another alternative and that's what you're choosing, you would use sondern. I think it'll make more sense too as we use it in context. When you use a coordinating conjunction, in the secondary clause, the verb just goes in its normal position. So it stays in that second spot for statements and would go first in a question. Subordinating conjunctions connect the main clause to a subordinate clause, which cannot stand on its own as a sentence. I think I just said that kind of weird. Cannot stand on its own as a sentence is what I meant to say. So here you'll see a whole list of them. In German 4, we're just going to work on these that have the star next to them. I think in level 3, Miss Roth worked with wenn, weil, and das. So those you should know already. And then this year, the new ones you're getting are damit, ob, obwohl, and während. Excuse me for a brief moment. I need to take a drink. So, in the subordinate clause, the verb gets moved to the very end. And you probably remember that a little bit from level 3. So if you use one of these subordinating conjunctions, you'll just have to make sure to get that conjugated verb to the end of the clause. Question words are listed here on the bottom as well. They're not conjunctions, but they do move the verb to the end in their subordinate clause, so you can kind of be aware of that. We'll have one assignment that practices using question words in secondary clauses, but for today, you really need to just focus on the conjunctions. Okay, getting to the assignment itself, I'm just going to work with the sizing a bit here. There, that makes it hopefully a little easier for you to see. So part A says, ordne die Konjunktionen von den Kästchen in die richtige Liste ein. Dann schreibe ihre englische Bedeutungen. So here you will find the conjunction, put it in the right category, whether coordinating, koordinierend, or subordinating, subordinierend, and then give its English definition. So for that, I think that's pretty simple. You probably don't need me to help you with it. Just go back to that list and see where they belong, which list they belong into, and then define. So that's pretty simple. And then once you've got that, I think this is, I don't know, maybe a little easier to look at. You can continue coming back to this page, or you can just use the first slide to help you with the ones that follow. For part B, it says, mache einen Satz aus den zwei Sätzen. Benutze die Konjunktion in Klammern. And there you'll see that little footnote down in your speaker notes. Klammern means parentheses. So here you'll make one sentence out of the two sentences. Use the conjunction in parentheses. So here you have to, when you see that conjunction, you have to decide, is it coordinating and the verb will go in its normal position, or is it subordinating and the verb will go to the end? So I'll do two with you. Nummer eins. So we're just going to start out the same. So weißt du? When you, now we're, oops, I misspelled it. There we go. So weißt du, comma, and be sure you get that comma because in German you always have to have that to separate the clause. Then you put in that conjunction. So here I'm telling you to use ob. And you can look back and see that word ob is subordinating, meaning it moves the verb to the end. So when you look at this clause here, wir werden ein Quiz nächsten Dienstag haben, it actually has two verbs, werden and haben. This verb werden, which is in its normal spot, is going to be the one that gets moved to the very end. So you'll say, ob wir ein Quiz nächsten Dienstag haben werden. And then here you've got the werden at the end, conjugated for wir. So if you have two, so you know future tense, you've normally got werden in the second position and the other verb at the end. Once werden gets moved, you'll have those two verbs right next to each other. So it might look a little odd, but this is perfectly natural German. Weißt du, ob wir ein Quiz nächsten Dienstag haben werden? Okay, last example I'll do with you is number 2, because this one has a few clauses, so we'll just work that out together. So we'll just start it how I've started it. Ja, wir schreiben am Dienstag, Dienstag ein Quiz. Remember the comma, where I'm indicating for you to make a new clause, you'll put a comma. Here you're going to use that conjunction damit. With damit, it means, you can kind of look back and see it means so that, and it moves the verb to the end of its clause. So you'll say, damit Frau, Hollenbeck weiß. So there, that verb weiß is at the end of its clause. So here so far you're saying, yes, we're going to write a quiz or take a quiz on Tuesday so that Miss Hollenbeck knows. Wir haben den Wortschatz und die Grammatik verstanden. And then here, so we've put a comma to separate the clause. And now you're going to use the conjunction ob. So you can check back again and see ob means if or whether, and it's also subordinating, so it'll move the verb to the end of its clause. You'll notice this clause has two verbs, haben and verstanden. The haben is the one that's going to go to the end. Verstanden is already there, so ob wir den Wortschatz, darn it, und die Grammatik verstanden haben. So with damit, the verb goes to the end of the clause, and with ob, the verb also goes to the end of the clause. And then just remember each clause has to get separated off by a comma. So where you see my I don't know what to call that, slash up on the prompt, that's where you'll put your comma in when you answer it. I think it's fairly simple, so I'm not giving any more examples than that. You've got 8 to do on your own, which really shouldn't take you long. As you're doing them, I hope you try to figure out the meanings of the sentences, because these, partly they're pretty simple, but also they're using vocabulary words. So that's it for today. Get in contact with me if you have any questions, and I will be back with another video tomorrow. Tschüss, ciao, auf Wiedersehen.